How are we going today, people? Today we're going to cover personality. And I'm not talking about personality in the way that, say, for example, your psychologist might talk about it. I'm talking about personality more in a complete sense of the person that you are. So there's three major aspects, okay? There's physical, emotional, and mental. Okay, today what we're going to spend a lot of time on is, say, the emotional aspect. And the reason why is because most of us are pretty good with the physical body. And now I will go into some depth about the physical body later on. And the mental body will require a video of its own. But the emotional body, now this is where a lot of people fall into trouble in the world. This is where, like, most people kind of like, experience a lot of lows and highs, because it is a body of duality, okay? So there is, there's an upside and there's a downside to it. Okay, we might call this higher aspects and lower aspects. And as a matter of fact, the emotional body is divided up into 7 subplanes. So, for example, say that's the higher 1, 2, 3. This is the middle principle. 1, 2, 3, the lower principle. Okay. So, in its highest form, we might talk about experiencing, say, emotions like, unconditional love. Let's just get this down. Unconditional love. In this lowest, we might experience like complete evil or hate. Okay? Now these are extremes, obviously. Now most humans have not really ever experienced complete unconditional love. And, thank God, most of us haven't experienced full-on like evil. But in between there are some other nice little aspects, say for example like gratitude. And maybe compassion. Empathy. And down here might be jealousy. It might be, vengefulness. And it could be fear. Okay, cool. So let's just switch gears now. So if we think of this system, for example, like as part of, like, say, the chakra system has 7 units in the body, okay? And this middle principle would represent the heart. Now, this is ideally where a human wants to come from. So it's kind of like, that's the heart principle. That's my little black heart. It's really average. But anyway, that's the heart. Okay? Whereas most of us are actually coming from this center here, which is represented of, like, personal power, control, and it's about safety and things like that. So most of us are coming from this place here because we're trapped in a fear paradigm. Now, ultimately, in, like, say, for example, yogic science, in, like, Tantra, it's all about learning how to modulate from this chakra here, or this center here, or coming from a place of fear to a place of love, where you're emanating these higher aspects. So the heart being the bridge. You've got the lower aspect, which is obviously, connected to the earth. It's more material in nature. You've got the sexual center, the sacral, which is all about procreation. It's about, procreating and creating matter. It's also, known as like the lowest form of sexual expression, because in Tantra we will learn to transmute that, have it from the heart, have it from the mind center, right? And obviously, there's the power, the domination center, but we wouldn't necessarily need to have, like, complete personal power if we didn't feel threatened by that space in the first place. So obviously the heart being that middle principle, and here the throat chakra being the center of, like, creative expression, divine creative expression. The third eye, ajna, known for, like, divine thought and like the registration of intuition. And you have the crown chakra, which is, basically being your connection to the cosmos, your connection to the divine. So whilst these things are depicted in, say, for example, like lower aspects and higher aspects, I'm not saying that it's not good to be connected to the earth and, say, connected to the cosmos. It's actually necessary. It's just about where you're predominantly governed. Now, if you're governed by the heart principle, then you're evenly connected to, like, heaven and earth. And, to put in terms of, like, how do we actually bring heaven to earth? How do we actually make the planet a better place to live? How do we, evolve humanity? Well, it's about bringing our, control center, rather than being from here, bringing it from the place of the heart, so we're expressing from these higher aspects. Now, I'm talking about higher and lower aspects. We all have higher and lower aspects, and there are times that we all slip into our lower aspects, and we express life. We might fall into fear. We might fall into areas of depression, or get angry about things, and it's not that it's a bad thing. It's part of the world. We live in a world of duality. The emotional body is a body of duality. It experiences a whole range. It's about, and down the track we'll talk about how the mind can actually learn to govern the emotional body so that your emotions aren't governing the mind. In other words, the tail isn't wagging the dog. It's the other way around, so to speak. So anyway, connecting here, what we want to do is actually, moving forward, just take some time to reflect how you're expressing your desires, where your beliefs are coming from, where your ideals are coming from, and where your fears are coming from. If they're coming from, say, for example, a lower aspect, a place of lack or wanting more power, or a place of dominion, control, or conquering, if they're coming from those lower aspects, just be mindful of that. Be mindful that when you come at it from that place, the laws of cause and effect are in play, and eventually it's going to come back to you. So this is why when we operate from the heart, we start to express more, say, for example, gratitude, compassion, unconditional love in the world. It starts actually, it's a place of service, it's a place of expression, and so the vibration of love is about unity. It's about bringing in, it's about unifying humanity. It's about unifying, also yourself, because these things are at work even just in yourself. So you want to be you want to have a sense of wholeness in yourself, and that sense of wholeness is exactly what we want for humanity. We want humans to feel more whole and complete and less fearful and separated, because the law of separation seeks its expression through the form. It's seeking its expression through the form, whereas the law of love is a unifying principle. And when we start to express that, it's more about selfless service. We're happy to give ourselves. We're happy to give our value to others, because we know that ultimately it helps everything that we're around, and it sort of just circulates. We don't even have to worry about it. So moving on from here, if you can just keep in mind on where you're operating from, just higher or lower aspect. And if it's lower, just kind of reflect and ask yourself well, what can I learn from this? What can I learn from expressing myself on the lower aspect? And can I, what if I was to flip it around, what would it be like if I was bringing that out from the heart? It might just completely eradicate whatever it is that you're talking about. So anyway, take those thoughts. I'd love to hear what you have to think, say. If you think someone who might benefit from this information, please go ahead and share. I want to get it out to as many people as we can. I want to be able to bring heaven to earth, but I can't do it alone. I need all of you to help. So yeah, we'll go into the mental body and physical in later dates, but for now, that's enough from me. Thank you very much.